I remember the moment like it was burned into my brain. It wasn't loud. It wasn't explosive. It wasn't even meant for me. But it changed everything. I was walking past the guest room late at night, barefoot, carrying a glass of water, when I heard them. Two voices. Whispering. Laughing softly. My son, Nathan. Her daughter, Emily. At first, I smiled. They'd always gotten along well, even though they were both in their mid-20s when we got married. Not exactly kids, but young enough that blending a family felt tricky. Still, they managed better than I expected. Better than most. But something about the way they were talking that night made me stop. It wasn't just friendly. It wasn't sibling banter. It was intimate. Soft and close, like they were sharing secrets no one else was supposed to hear. And then. You know we can't tell them yet, Nathan whispered. Tell us what? I stood frozen outside the door, heart pounding in my chest. I know, Emily murmured back. But I hate sneaking around. It's not like we're doing anything wrong. Nathan sighed. They won't see it that way. I didn't even realize I was holding my breath until I felt dizzy. I stepped back, quietly, before they noticed me. I went back to our bedroom, climbed into bed next to my wife, Rachel, and stared at the ceiling for hours, unable to sleep. What the hell were they talking about? The next morning, I tried to shake it off. Maybe it wasn't what it sounded like. Maybe they were just planning something, a surprise for Rachel's birthday or... I don't know. I tried to convince myself of anything else. But the knot in my stomach wouldn't loosen. At breakfast, I watched them. Nathan sitting across from Emily at the kitchen island, their knees touching under the counter. Smiling at each other in that subtle way people do when they share something no one else knows. Rachel was flipping pancakes, humming to herself. So, what are you two up to today? She asked them. Nathan looked at Emily, then back at Rachel. Probably just hanging out. Maybe go see a movie. Sounds fun, Rachel said, sliding a pancake onto his plate. I'm glad you guys are so close. Makes this whole blended family thing so much easier. I forced a smile, but inside, something twisted. I spent the rest of the day trying to focus on work, but my mind kept drifting back to them. The way Emily had leaned into Nathan's shoulder last week when we were watching TV. The way he'd brushed her hair out of her face like it was second nature. Little moments I hadn't thought twice about at the time. Now, they felt different. That evening, I decided to ask Rachel. Carefully. Casually. Hey, I said, pouring us each a glass of wine while she chopped vegetables for dinner, have you noticed anything unusual about Nathan and Emily lately? She looked up, puzzled. Unusual? Like what? I don't know. They seem really close. Rachel smiled warmly. Yeah, isn't it great? I was so worried they'd resent each other, but they've really bonded. Honestly, it's one of the things I'm most grateful for. I hesitated. Do you think it's too close? She frowned slightly. Where's this coming from? I shrugged. Just something I overheard last night. Rachel set the knife down. What did you hear? I told her. Not everything, not the exact words, I didn't want to sound paranoid. Just enough to raise the question. Rachel's smile faded. You think they're involved? I don't know, I admitted. But it sounded secretive. Rachel let out a shaky laugh. No. No, that's crazy. They grew up apart, sure, but they're siblings now, David. They know that. They're not blood, I reminded her. Rachel shook her head. Still. No. They wouldn't. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But that night, when I went up to bed, I heard Nathan's door close quietly down the hall. A few minutes later, Emily's door clicked shut too. And I couldn't stop picturing them standing in the dark, whispering like they had last night. The next few days were a blur. Rachel tried to brush it off, but I could tell it was gnawing at her too. She started watching Emily more closely. Asking her subtle questions. And Emily, bright, bubbly Emily, started pulling away, retreating behind polite smiles. Then came the night Rachel found the note. I'd just come in from walking the dog when I saw her standing in the kitchen, holding a crumpled piece of paper. Her face was pale. "Where'd you get that?" I asked. Rachel swallowed. "It was in Emily's purse." I took it from her hands. It was a handwritten letter, messy and rushed. I hate sneaking around. I want to tell them. We can't keep pretending we're just step-siblings. I love you. N. I stared at it, feeling the air leave my lungs. Rachel covered her mouth, tears welling up. "Oh my God. David, what do we do?" I didn't have an answer. I sat down hard at the table, the letter shaking in my hands. "They're in love," Rachel whispered. "Our kids are in love." For a long time, neither of us spoke. Finally, Rachel wiped her eyes and said, "We have to talk to them. Tonight." I nodded, but inside, I was breaking. Not because I was angry. Not because I was disgusted. But because deep down, I already knew. I'd known since the moment I heard their voices in the dark. And the truth was, I didn't know if I had it in me to stop them. We sat them down in the living room that night. Nathan on the couch, arms crossed, jaw tight. Emily next to him, clutching a pillow like a shield. Rachel and I sat across from them, side by side, the letter lying face up on the coffee table between us. No one spoke at first. Finally, Rachel broke the silence. Her voice was soft, trembling. "We found the note, Emily." Emily's eyes widened, darting from the letter to Nathan. "Mom." "Don't lie," Rachel said gently, but firmly. "Please. We just want the truth." Nathan leaned forward, his hands clasped between his knees. "We weren't going to hide it forever. We were going to tell you. We just needed time." I cleared my throat, forcing my words out. "Tell us what, exactly?" Nathan looked at Emily again, as if asking permission. She gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. Nathan turned back to us. "We're together. We've been together for almost a year." Rachel inhaled sharply, her hand gripping mine. She whispered. "You're in a relationship." Emily's voice cracked. "We didn't plan it. We didn't mean for it to happen. But it did." I stared at them, struggling to process it. "You knew you were step-siblings, and you still." "We're not real siblings," Nathan cut in. "We didn't grow up together. We were already adults when you guys got married." "That doesn't change what this is," Rachel said, her voice breaking. This isn't normal." Emily's face flushed. "What's normal, Mom? We didn't ask for this situation. We just fell in love." Nathan put his arm around her, pulling her closer. "We're not hurting anyone." Rachel let out a bitter laugh. "You don't think this hurts us? Do you have any idea what you're doing to this family?" Nathan's jaw tightened. "We didn't choose to be part of this family. You did." That stung. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. "Nathan. You're telling me you've been sneaking around under our roof, lying to us, pretending." "We weren't pretending," Nathan interrupted. "We were trying to keep things peaceful. We knew how you'd react." Rachel shook her head. No, this isn't just about sneaking around. You too," she stopped herself, breathing hard. "You've crossed a line." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "A line we didn't draw." The room fell into heavy silence. I rubbed my hands over my face, exhausted. "What happens now?" I asked quietly. "What exactly do you two expect from us?" Nathan hesitated. "We want you to accept us." Rachel's head snapped up. "Accept you?" Emily's voice was pleading. "We're not asking for your blessing. Just, don't make us choose." Rachel's lips trembled. "You're putting us in an impossible position." Nathan stood, pulling Emily up with him. "We're adults. You can't control who we love." Rachel stood too, voice rising. "Don't turn this into a rebellion, Nathan. This isn't about control. This is about family." About right and wrong. Emily's shoulders shook. It's not wrong. Rachel pointed at the letter. Then why hide it? Why sneak around? If it wasn't wrong, why couldn't you tell us? Nathan's face hardened. Because we knew you'd react like this. My heart ached watching them, my son, her daughter, standing united against us, like we were the enemy. Rachel's voice softened. Please, don't do this. Don't throw away your future for something that. That what? Nathan challenged. That feels right. That makes us happy. Rachel looked at me helplessly, her eyes shining with tears. I stood slowly. Nathan. Emily. I need you to listen. They both turned to me, guarded. I took a deep breath. You say you're not hurting anyone. But you are. You're tearing this family apart. Emily wiped her eyes. We never meant to hurt you. I know, I said quietly. But intentions don't erase consequences. Nathan's face softened just a fraction. We didn't choose to fall in love. I hesitated, feeling an old weight press down on me. A weight I hadn't spoken of in years. Rachel noticed. David. I swallowed hard, suddenly aware of the secret I'd kept buried. There's something you both don't know. Nathan frowned. What do you mean? Rachel turned to me, confused. David, what are you talking about? I closed my eyes. Nathan, your mother, before she left us, she told me something. Something I didn't think mattered at the time. Nathan's brow furrowed. Dad. I forced myself to meet his eyes. She told me she'd had an affair. Silence. Nathan's face went pale. What? Rachel's hand flew to her mouth. David. I never knew for sure, I said hoarsely. I never asked. I didn't want to know. But she told me there was a chance you weren't mine. Nathan stumbled back like I'd struck him. No. No, that's. I raised you as my own, I said quickly. You're my son, no matter what. But, biologically. I never got tested. Emily stared at him, then at me. Are you saying they might not be related? Rachel looked stunned. David, why didn't you tell me this? I didn't think it mattered, I whispered. Until now. Nathan's chest rose and fell rapidly. You're saying I might not be. I don't know, I admitted. But if you're not mine, if you're not biologically my son. Emily's eyes widened in realization. Then we're not related at all. Rachel sat down hard on the couch, hands trembling. Oh my God. Nathan stared at the floor, his expression unreadable. Emily reached for his hand. Nathan. He didn't move. We have to find out. Rachel shook her head. Nathan, even if you're not related by blood, we raised you two as family. It changes the facts, but not what this family means. Nathan looked at her, conflicted. I get that. I really do. But if we're not siblings, doesn't that change everything? Rachel's voice broke. Does it? Or does it just give you an excuse to ignore everything we've tried to build? I watched my son, his jaw working, his eyes full of turmoil. Emily squeezed his hand tighter. Nathan, no matter what the DNA says. I love you. Nathan looked at her, something breaking in his gaze. I love you too. Rachel's tears fell silently. And in that moment, I realized. Whatever the test said, whatever truths or lies lay buried in our past. We were standing on the edge of something that couldn't be undone. The next morning felt like walking through a fog. No one spoke much. No one made eye contact. Rachel sat at the kitchen table, cradling her coffee, staring at nothing. Emily had gone out early, claiming she needed air. Nathan sat outside on the porch swing, headphones in, pretending to listen to music, but I knew he wasn't really hearing anything. And me? I stood in the hallway, phone in hand, staring at the search results for DNA testing centers nearby. I finally clicked one. Made an appointment. The words tasted strange in my mouth when I told Rachel. I'm getting tested. She looked up slowly, like pulling herself out of a trance. When? Tomorrow morning. Rachel nodded, then dropped her gaze back to her coffee. Good. We didn't talk about it again that day. That night, lying in bed beside her, I listened to the sound of her breathing. Not steady like usual. Shallow. Restless. I should have told you sooner, I murmured. Rachel didn't answer. I didn't think it mattered, I went on. I never doubted he was mine in the ways that counted. Her voice was brittle. Until now. I turned toward her, but she kept her back to me. Rachel. You kept a secret, she said quietly. And now it's changed everything. I swallowed hard. I didn't want to ruin things. I thought. You didn't trust me. The words landed like a stone in my chest. I didn't trust the past, I said softly. I didn't want it to bleed into our present. Rachel let out a shaky breath. Well, it has. We lay there in silence after that, miles apart though we were only inches away. The next morning, I went to the clinic. Filled out the paperwork. Swabbed my cheek. Left feeling hollow. They said it would take a few days. A few days. It felt like an eternity. At home, the air was thick with waiting. Nathan avoided me. Emily barely spoke to Rachel. I could feel our family stretching, straining, threads pulling taut in every direction. One evening, Rachel called me into the den. She held up a manila envelope. I found this in the filing cabinet. I frowned. What is it? She handed it to me. I opened it carefully. Inside were old papers, medical records, school forms, and a birth certificate. Nathan's. Rachel pointed to the line that read, Father, David Carter. You were listed, she said. Officially. Legally. I traced the letters of my name with my thumb. I know. Rachel's voice cracked. So why wasn't that enough for you? I looked at her, tired. Because biology doesn't care what's on paper. And neither will they if it turns out. I couldn't finish. Rachel sat down, hugging her arms around herself. What if it comes back, and he's not yours? I sat beside her. Then we deal with it. Her lips trembled. And if he is? Then we still deal with it. Rachel stared at the floor. You really think a test is going to fix this? No, I admitted. But it's the only way to know what we're standing on. She wiped her eyes. We're standing on quicksand, David. No piece of paper's going to change that. I wanted to argue. But I couldn't. The next day, Nathan came home late. Emily wasn't with him. He found me in the garage, organizing tools I didn't really need to organize. Dad, he said. I set down a wrench. Yeah. He hesitated. Emily and we've been talking. I waited. We're not sure we want to wait for the results. I turned to face him fully. What do you mean? Nathan's gaze was steady. We've been looking at apartments. Places in the city. My chest tightened. You're planning to move out. He nodded. We think it'd be easier. For everyone. I leaned against the workbench, feeling the weight of it all settle on my shoulders. Running away won't make this easier. We're not running, Nathan said quietly. We're choosing peace. I let out a bitter chuckle. Is that what you call it? He flinched. We're trying not to make you choose between accepting us and cutting us off. You're still making us choose, Nathan. He looked pained. I know. I sighed heavily. Do you even care about the DNA test? Nathan looked down. Part of me does. Part of me doesn't. Because either way, it won't change how I feel about her. That's not the only thing it changes, I said. He met my eyes again. For us, it is. I shook my head slowly. I don't want to lose you. You're not losing me, Dad. Feels like I am. Nathan stepped forward, placed a hand on my shoulder. We'll always be family. No matter what the biology says. I searched his face for the boy I'd raised. Saw traces of him. But he wasn't a boy anymore. You're sure about this? I asked quietly. He nodded. I've never been more sure of anything. I swallowed hard. Then I guess we wait. He squeezed my shoulder once, then left the garage. That night, Emily came to Rachel's room. I listened from down the hall as their voices murmured back and forth. I couldn't hear the words. Just the raw emotion behind them. When Emily left, Rachel came out, her face streaked with tears. She's made up her mind, she told me. I figured, I said. Rachel stared at me for a long moment. You still love him like your son? Yes, I said without hesitation. Always. Her voice was small. Even if he's not? Yes. She exhaled shakily. I wish I could say the same. That cut deeper than I expected. We stood there in the hallway, surrounded by old photographs on the walls, family portraits, school pictures, milestones frozen in time. And I wondered if we'd ever be able to hang another photo again without seeing the cracks beneath the smiles. The next morning, the clinic called. The results were in. I held the phone in my hand for a long time before answering. Hello. Mr. Carter. We have your paternity test results. My throat felt dry. And. A pause. Then. You are not the biological father. The words echoed in my ears, hollow and final. Thank you, I managed, before ending the call. I stood there in the kitchen, phone still pressed to my ear even after the line went dead. Rachel walked in, saw my face. David. I lowered the phone slowly. He's not mine, I said. Rachel's knees buckled, and she sat down hard in the nearest chair. Oh God. I leaned against the counter, staring out the window where Nathan and Emily sat in the backyard, talking quietly, hands intertwined. I thought I'd feel angry, I murmured. I thought I'd feel betrayed. Rachel looked up at me, her eyes full of questions. But all I feel, I said softly, is tired. She covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking silently. And outside, our children sat beneath the afternoon sun, unaware that the last thread tying us together had quietly snapped. We didn't tell them right away. Rachel and I sat with the truth between us like a loaded gun on the table, both too afraid to pick it up. Maybe we shouldn't tell them, Rachel said quietly that night. I turned toward her, weary. We can't hide it. Not now. Her voice cracked. What if knowing makes them push even further away? I rubbed my temples. They've already decided. This isn't going to stop them. Rachel let out a shaky breath. But it removes the last reason to stop them. I looked at her. You're saying, you'd rather they didn't know they weren't related? I'm saying, if they know, they'll think they have permission, she whispered. They'll think it's a green light. I sank back against the couch, staring at the ceiling. Maybe it is. Rachel shot me a look. Don't you dare. I closed my eyes. I'm tired of fighting them, Rachel. They're adults. They've made their choice. And what about us, she demanded. Do we just let them walk away? Act like it's okay. I opened my eyes. It's not about okay. It's about reality. Rachel shook her head, her lips trembling. No. No, I can't accept this. I can't be okay with this. I sat up slowly. Neither can I. But pretending it didn't happen won't undo it. She turned away, pacing the room. If we tell them Nathan's not yours. They'll feel justified, I finished for her. She swallowed hard. Exactly. We fell into silence again. And I knew. I knew we couldn't keep it from them, no matter how much we wanted to. The next evening, we called them inside. Nathan and Emily sat on the couch, side by side, their hands entwined. Rachel and I sat opposite, the space between us feeling wider than ever. I cleared my throat. We got the test results. Nathan leaned forward. And I met his eyes. Nathan. I'm not your biological father. Silence. Emily's breath caught. Nathan froze, his expression unreadable. You're sure? He finally asked, voice low. I nodded once. Yes. Nathan sat back slowly, like the air had been knocked out of him. Emily turned to him. Nathan. He didn't look at her. He stared straight ahead, processing. Rachel's voice trembled. We don't know who your biological father is. Your mother never said. Nathan's jaw tightened. I see. Rachel leaned forward. But you're still our son. Nothing changes that. Nathan's lips curved into a bitter smile. Everything changes that. No, I said firmly. Not everything. He looked at me finally. You don't get it. This means we're not siblings. I felt Rachel flinch beside me. Biologically, no, I admitted. But emotionally, legally, you've been family since the day we married. Nathan's gaze hardened. But we didn't grow up as siblings. We didn't share a childhood. We met as adults. Rachel's voice broke. Nathan, please, don't use this as an excuse. I'm not using it as an excuse, he snapped. I'm stating a fact. Emily put a hand on his arm. Nathan. He turned to her, his face softening. This changes everything, Em. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. Nathan, do you even hear yourself? You're throwing away a family. You're throwing away us. Nathan stood abruptly. I'm not throwing you away. I'm just choosing her. Rachel stood too, voice rising. And what happens when it falls apart? What happens when you realize this isn't love, it's just rebellion, it's just some twisted need to claim what you shouldn't have? Nathan's face flushed. It's not rebellion. Then what is it? Rachel demanded. He took a deep breath. It's love. Whether you like it or not. Rachel turned to Emily, desperate. And you? You're okay with this? With tearing this family apart? Emily stood quietly. I never wanted to tear anything apart. But I'm not giving him up, Mom. I can't. Rachel's voice cracked. You're choosing him over me. I'm choosing love, Emily whispered. And if you can't accept that, I'm sorry. Rachel's hands clenched into fists at her sides. You're my daughter. I raised you better than this. Emily's eyes shimmered. Then trust me to know my own heart. Rachel shook her head, broken. I can't. Nathan took Emily's hand. We've found an apartment. We're moving out next week. Rachel gasped. You already decided? Nathan nodded. We're not asking for permission. We're telling you. Rachel's face crumpled. Then why even come here? Why sit here and pretend this was a conversation? Emily's voice was soft. Because we wanted to give you a chance to say goodbye. Rachel stumbled back, tears streaming down her face. I stood slowly, my throat tight. Nathan, are you sure? He looked at me, sadness flickering in his eyes. I've never been more sure. I swallowed hard. Then I hope, someday, you'll understand what this cost. Nathan's gaze softened. I already do. Rachel turned away, covering her face with her hands. And just like that, they walked out. I watched them go, hand in hand, silhouettes fading into the night. Rachel sank into a chair, sobbing quietly. And I stood at the window, wondering if this was the last time I'd ever see my son's face. Later that night, I found Rachel in the bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. I can't forgive them, she said hoarsely. I sat beside her. You don't have to. Not now. She shook her head. I don't know if I ever can. I put an arm around her. She didn't lean in. I lost her, she whispered. I lost my little girl. I didn't know what to say. Because I'd lost something too. And yet, a part of me couldn't hate them. A part of me envied them. They'd chosen love, against the odds, against the rules, against everything we'd built. Maybe it was reckless. Maybe it was foolish. Maybe it was wrong. But it was theirs. And nothing we said, no test result, no family tie, was going to change that. I lay awake long into the night, listening to Rachel's quiet breathing, feeling the empty spaces where their laughter used to be. Wondering how long before those spaces swallowed everything else. A month passed. The house was too quiet. Every sound echoed. Every silence stretched longer than it should. Rachel drifted through the rooms like a ghost. She'd stopped checking her phone. Stopped asking if they'd call. I kept myself busy with projects I never finished. Fixing a fence that didn't need fixing. Rearranging the garage 3 times over. Anything to fill the emptiness. And then one afternoon, the doorbell rang. Rachel and I looked at each other. "I'll get it," I said. At the door stood a man I hadn't seen in over 2 decades. Tall, broad-shouldered, with weathered features and eyes that had seen too much. His name came back to me like an old wound reopening. "Mark," I said. He nodded slowly. "Hey, David." Rachel appeared behind me. "Oh my God." Mark's gaze flicked to her, then back to me. "Mind if I come in?" I hesitated. Then stepped aside. "Sure." He walked in, looking around like the house held memories he didn't expect. We sat in the living room. Rachel perched on the edge of the chair, tense. I stayed standing. "What are you doing here, Mark?" I asked. He cleared his throat. "I heard about Nathan." Rachel stiffened. "How?" Mark met her eyes. "Word gets around. Small town." I frowned. "What exactly did you hear?" Mark hesitated. "That he moved out. With Emily." Rachel's lips pressed into a thin line. "That's none of your business." Mark leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "It is, if he's mine." The room went still. I stared at him, my pulse thudding in my ears. "What?" Mark looked at Rachel. "Tell him." Rachel's face drained of color. "Mark, don't." "Tell him, Rachel," Mark said gently. "He deserves to know." I took a step closer. "Know what?" Rachel's voice was a whisper. I thought it wasn't possible." Mark sighed. "It is. Rachel and we were together. Right before you." I shook my head, not understanding. "You mean?" Rachel covered her mouth with her hand. "I never told you because I thought you were the father." "I swear, David." "I swear I thought." Mark's voice cut in. "I got tested. A few weeks ago. I wanted to be sure." Rachel's eyes filled with tears. "Mark, why now? Why come here now?" "Because he's my son," Mark said quietly. "And because there's something you don't know." I felt a cold weight settle in my gut. "What are you talking about?" Mark hesitated. "Emily's father. Her biological father." Rachel sat up straighter. "What about him?" Mark looked between us. "It's me." Silence. I couldn't breathe. Rachel's voice cracked. No, that's not possible." Mark nodded solemnly. "It is. I dated her mother. Before she got pregnant. She never told me who the father was. I didn't push. But after everything that's happened, I had doubts. I did the test." Rachel shook her head over and over. No. I sank into a chair, the room spinning. Mark's voice was quiet. "They're not half-siblings, David. They're full siblings." The words hit like a sledgehammer. Rachel let out a strangled sob. Oh God. I gripped the armrest, my knuckles white. "You're telling me, they're not just related, they're..." Mark's expression was pained. "They're brother and sister." Rachel covered her face, rocking back and forth. What have we done? I stared at Mark. "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" "I didn't know," Mark said. "Not until now. Not until I got curious and did my own digging." I stood abruptly, pacing the room. They left thinking they were free. Thinking nothing was stopping them. Rachel looked up, desperation in her eyes. "We have to tell them." Mark frowned. "They'll hate us." "They need to know," Rachel snapped. Before it's too late. I stopped pacing. We should have stopped this a long time ago. Rachel wiped her face. We didn't know. We didn't know. I looked at Mark. Do you have proof? He reached into his jacket, pulled out a folded paper. The tests. Both of them. I didn't come here empty-handed. I took the papers, reading them with trembling hands. The names. The matches. The undeniable truth. I sank back into the chair, feeling everything crumble beneath me. Rachel stood abruptly. I'm calling Emily. Mark caught her arm gently. Rachel, think about how you're going to tell them. Rachel pulled away. There's no good way to say it. I sat there, staring at the papers. We have to do it in person. Rachel looked at me, hollow. They won't come. We'll go to them, I said quietly. We'll find them. Rachel swallowed hard. And then what? I met her eyes. And then we pray they can forgive us. Mark exhaled slowly. They won't. Not for this. Rachel pressed her palms to her temples. We can't let them, we can't. I stood. Then we need to leave. Now. Mark nodded grimly. I'll drive. Rachel hesitated. David, what if we're too late? I looked at her, my voice rough. Then at least we tried. We left the house, the papers clenched in my hand, the weight of the truth pressing down on us like a storm cloud ready to burst. And as we drove into the fading light, I wondered. Was this the end of our family? Or just the beginning of the real tragedy? We found their address through a mutual friend. A small apartment complex on the edge of town, nestled between a laundromat and an old gas station. It looked temporary, like the kind of place people stayed when they didn't plan to stay long. Mark parked the car, killing the engine. This is it. Rachel sat stiffly in the passenger seat, wringing her hands. Do we knock? Do we just show up? I stared at the dimly lit windows. We don't have a choice. Rachel turned to me, fear in her eyes. David, what if they won't listen? They have to. I opened the door. They have to. We walked up the creaky steps together. Mark stayed behind by the car, letting us handle it. I knocked twice, heart pounding. Nothing. I knocked again, louder. A few moments passed before the door opened a crack. Emily peeked out, her face wary. Mom, she said quietly. Dad. Rachel stepped forward. Emily, can we come in? Emily hesitated. It's late. Please, Rachel pleaded. We need to talk. Nathan's voice came from inside. Who is it? She opened the door wider. It's my mom. And David. Nathan appeared behind her, tense. What are you doing here? We need to talk to both of you, I said, keeping my voice calm. It's important. Nathan's jaw tightened. If this is another lecture. It's not, Rachel cut in. It's not about approval. It's something you need to know. Nathan exchanged a glance with Emily. Fine. Come in. We stepped inside. The apartment was small, cluttered but cozy. A few framed photos already on the walls. A sense of them trying to build a life here. Nathan folded his arms. Say whatever you came to say. Rachel looked at me, her lips trembling. You tell them. I took a deep breath, pulling out the folded papers from my jacket. We found out something we didn't know before. Nathan frowned. What is that? I placed the papers on the table. We thought you were only half-siblings. But the truth is. Emily's eyes narrowed. The truth is what? I swallowed hard. You're not half-siblings. Rachel's voice cracked. You're full siblings. Silence fell. Nathan stared at us like we'd spoken another language. Emily's face paled. That's not possible, Nathan said flatly. It's true, I said quietly. We didn't know. But Mark, he's both of your biological father. Emily shook her head, backing away. No. Nathan looked between us, disbelief morphing into anger. You're lying. Rachel stepped forward, her voice breaking. We didn't want this, Nathan. We didn't know. We thought we were protecting you. Emily's back hit the wall. You let us leave. You let us think we were free. Rachel's hands reached out helplessly. We didn't know then. Mark only told us recently. Nathan's fists clenched at his sides. Why should we believe him? I slid the papers across the table. These are the test results. You can see for yourself. Nathan didn't pick them up. He stared at me, a storm gathering in his eyes. You kept everything from me. First who raised me. Then who made me. Now who I really am. Emily sank into a chair, her hands shaking. This can't be happening. Rachel knelt beside her. Honey, please. We had no idea. We just wanted to stop this before. Emily let out a bitter laugh. Before what, Mom? Before it's too late. Rachel froze. Emily, what do you mean? Emily looked up, her eyes glassy. I'm pregnant. The room went silent. Rachel's breath caught. No. Nathan closed his eyes, his face crumpling. Rachel covered her mouth. Oh God, oh God. I sank into a chair, my legs unable to hold me. When did you find out? Emily wiped her eyes. Last week. Nathan sat beside her, taking her hand. We were going to tell you, we were waiting. Rachel shook her head over and over. No, no, this can't. Emily looked at her defiantly. We're not undoing it, Mom. I'm keeping the baby. Rachel's voice rose, sharp and panicked. You can't. Emily, this isn't right. This isn't. I know what it is. Emily shouted, standing. I know exactly what it is. And it doesn't change how I feel. Rachel stumbled back like she'd been struck. Nathan stood too, protective. We didn't choose this. We didn't ask for any of it. But we're not walking away from each other. I buried my face in my hands. Nathan, this isn't just about you anymore. He looked at me, fierce. It's always been about us. Rachel's voice broke into a sob. You're destroying yourselves. Emily's expression softened painfully. No, Mom. We're surviving. Rachel turned to me, lost. David, what do we do? I looked at my son, at my daughter, at the impossible tangle of love and tragedy between them. And I didn't have an answer. Mark appeared at the doorway then, his face somber. I'll leave you alone, he said quietly. But if you need anything, you know where to find me. Nathan's eyes darkened. You think we want anything from you? Mark hesitated. I just wanted to meet my son. Both of you. I didn't mean for it to be like this. Emily's voice was hollow. It's always been like this. You just weren't here to see it. Mark swallowed hard. I'm sorry. He left, closing the door softly behind him. Rachel sank onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. This isn't happening, this isn't happening. Nathan sat beside Emily again, wrapping an arm around her. We're going to be okay. Rachel lifted her head, her face streaked with tears. No, you're not. You think love can fix everything. But love built on lies can't survive. Emily's gaze locked on hers. Then we'll build something new. Something of our own. Rachel let out a bitter, broken laugh. At what cost? Nathan's voice was quiet but firm. At every cost. And in that moment, I realized. We'd already lost them. Not tonight. Not last month. Long before. Maybe the day we blended these families. Maybe the day we pretended we could be one. Rachel leaned against me, trembling. We can't stop them, David. I wrapped my arms around her, numb. No. We can't. Outside, the night pressed against the windows. And inside, 4 people sat in the wreckage of love, family, and truth. Waiting for the pieces to either settle or shatter completely. It's been 3 months. The seasons have shifted, but inside the house, nothing has changed. Rachel walks from room to room, touching things like they might disappear. I sit by the window most evenings, waiting for a phone call that never comes. Nathan and Emily didn't come home. We tried calling, texting, emails. Sometimes Emily answered, brief and cold, "We're fine. Please stop." Other times, silence. Rachel thought they'd come back once the shock wore off. Once the weight of what they were doing settled on them. But they didn't. And then, last night, the call came. Rachel was already asleep. I answered, expecting Emily's voice. But it wasn't her. It was a voice I didn't recognize. Calm. Detached. Professional. "Mr. Reynolds?" "Yes." "This is Officer Carter with the Springfield Police Department." I felt something cold bloom in my chest. What happened?" "There's been an accident." The words fell like stones. "I'm afraid your son and Ms. Emily were involved in a collision on Route 9 this evening. Their vehicle lost control and struck a barrier." I closed my eyes, heart thudding painfully. "Are they?" He hesitated. "I'm sorry, sir. They didn't make it." I couldn't breathe. The officer's voice softened. "We need someone to identify them." Rachel stirred behind me. "David, who is it?" I swallowed, my throat raw. I'll come in the morning." When I hung up, Rachel sat up, confusion on her face. "What's wrong?" I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. "Rachel." She touched my arm. "David, what's wrong?" I turned to her, barely able to speak. "It's Nathan and Emily." Her breath caught. "What about them?" I shook my head slowly. "They're gone." Her face crumpled, eyes filling with tears. No. I pulled her into my arms as she collapsed against me, sobbing. We stayed like that until the sun began to rise. At the station, the paperwork felt surreal. Names on forms. Signatures on lines. The officer handed me a small bag. These were found at the scene. Inside were 2 phones. Emily's necklace. Nathan's watch. I stared at them, unable to reconcile objects with the absence they left behind. Rachel sat silently beside me, her face pale, hands clasped tightly in her lap. "Do you want to see them?" the officer asked gently. Rachel shook her head immediately. No, I can't." I hesitated. Then nodded. "I have to." The morgue was cold. Quiet. They pulled back the sheets, one by one. Even broken, even still, they looked peaceful. Like nothing had ever torn them apart. Like nothing had ever been wrong. Rachel waited for me outside. When I returned, she stood and searched my face for answers. I couldn't give her any. She knew. We drove home in silence. That night, Rachel sat at the dining table, staring at nothing. "Do you think they meant it?" I frowned. "Meant what?" She looked at me, her expression hollow. "The crash. Do you think they did it on purpose?" The question hung between us like a blade. I wanted to say no. I wanted to believe it was just an accident. Rain-slick roads. Bad luck. A cruel twist of fate. But a small, quiet part of me wasn't sure. "They loved each other," Rachel whispered. No matter how wrong it was, they loved each other more than they feared the world. I sat across from her. And in the end, that love killed them. Her eyes filled again. Did we push them into it? I didn't have an answer. Because maybe we did. Or maybe love like that was always destined to end this way. Rachel reached for my hand. "I don't know how to live after this." Neither did I. The days blurred. The funeral came and went. People whispered condolences. Some avoided our eyes entirely, as if tragedy was contagious. Mark came. He stood at the back, silent. After the service, he approached. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I never wanted this." Rachel stared at him, cold and distant. You wanted the truth. Now we all live with it. Mark's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. He just nodded once, then walked away. We buried them side by side, under the same tree. Rachel chose the words on the shared headstone. Together, always. Some might have found it beautiful. Poetic. But every time I read it, it felt like a wound that never closed. Months passed. Rachel filled their rooms with flowers. I left their doors closed. Sometimes, at night, I swear I hear them laughing. Their voices drifting down the hall, soft and young and unbroken. Sometimes, Rachel whispers apologies into the dark. And sometimes I wonder if love is a blessing. Or a curse we keep passing down. I stare at their picture on the mantel, young, fearless, smiling like the world couldn't touch them. And I wonder, if they'd known the truth from the start, would it have changed anything? Or would they have chosen each other anyway? In the end, I think, some loves are too fierce for rules. Too wild for consequences. Too doomed for this world. And as I turn off the lights each night, I pray that wherever they are, they finally found peace. Even if we never will.